Welcome back to Easy English Talk Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Easy English Talk Podcast. It is really great to have you here with us today. Priya, hey, how are you doing? How has your day been so far?
Ryan, honestly, it has been a good day. I had a quiet morning, made some tea, and just took things slowly. How about you? What have you been up to?
I actually had a really calm morning, too. I went for a short walk, and it just put me in a great mood for today's conversation. I love starting the day without rushing.
That sounds lovely. A slow morning really does set the tone for everything else, doesn't it? I think we forget how important that is sometimes.
Absolutely. And speaking of starting things well, to everyone listening or watching right now, we want to say a big, warm welcome to you. It means so much that you chose to spend your time with us today.
Yes, truly. Whether you are listening on your commute, at home, or during a break, we are so glad you are here with us right now.
We would love to know where in the world you are listening or watching from today. Drop it in the comments, your city, your country, wherever you are. We genuinely love reading those.
And also, we want to ask you something important. Is this podcast helping you with your English? Is it helping you grow as a person too? Please let us know. Your feedback really helps us make better content for you.
Okay, so now, today we are discussing how to stop carrying other people's expectations. And before we go any further, let me just say, this episode is for you if you have ever felt like you were living someone else's life.
If you have ever made a choice, a job, a relationship, a goal, and quietly wondered, is this what I actually want, or is this what everyone else wants for me? Then this conversation is going to matter to you.
By the end of this episode, you will understand why we carry these expectations, how they affect us deeply, and most importantly, how to gently but firmly put them down. So stay with us.
And as always, this conversation is also a great way to practice your English listening skills. The language is clear, the pace is steady, and you'll hear lots of natural expressions used in real conversation.
So let us start at the beginning. Priya, when we talk about other people's expectations, what do we actually mean? Because I think some people might not even realize they are carrying them.
That is such a good point. An expectation is basically what someone wants from you, what they think you should do, be, or become. And those expectations can come from parents, friends, society, culture, even social media.
And here's the thing. Most of the time, these expectations are not even spoken out loud. They're just quietly there. You feel them without anyone saying a single word.
Exactly. It's like an invisible pressure. Nobody officially hands you a list of rules, but somehow you just know, this is what is expected of me. And you start to live according to that without questioning it.
I think this starts very early in life, right? Even as children, we pick up signals from the people around us. We learn what makes them happy, what disappoints them, and we start shaping ourselves around that.
Yes, and children are incredibly sensitive to approval. If a child gets praised for being quiet and obedient, they learn that being that way brings love and safety, and that lesson can stay with them for decades.
So, by the time we are adults, many of us have been trained, without even knowing it, to prioritize what others want over what we actually feel or need.
And that is where the real problem begins. Because as we grow up, we start to have our own desires, our own dreams, our own sense of who we are. And suddenly, there is a conflict between that inner voice and all those outer expectations.
Let us talk about why this is actually such a big problem. Because some people might say, well, caring about others is a good thing, right? Isn't it kind to think about what people want from you?
That is a really fair question, and the answer is nuanced. Yes, caring about others is beautiful, but there's a big difference between caring about others and sacrificing yourself entirely for their approval.
That difference is everything. When you care about someone, you consider them, but when you live for their expectations, you disappear. Your own needs, your own voice, your own path, they slowly fade.
And what happens then is something called resentment. When you keep giving and adjusting and shrinking yourself for others, you start to feel tired. And underneath that tiredness is often a quiet anger at the situation, at others, and sometimes at yourself.
That is so true. And I think a lot of people feel that resentment, but do not understand where it is coming from. They just feel drained, unmotivated, or stuck, without realizing that they have been living for everyone except themselves.
There's also a deeper cost. When you are always focused on meeting others' expectations, you lose touch with who you actually are. Over time, you might not even know what you want anymore. You've spent so long performing for others that you forgot your own script.
That is a really powerful way to put it. You forgot your own script. And writing that script again, that is the work we are really talking about in this episode.
Exactly. This is not just about saying no to people. It's about rediscovering yourself, your values, your voice, and then having the courage to live from that place instead of from fear.
Now, let us talk about some of the most common sources of these expectations, because I think it helps to name them clearly, to see exactly where the pressure is coming from.
The first and most powerful source is family. Parents, in particular, often have very specific ideas about what a good life looks like, what career you should have, who you should marry, how you should behave. And those ideas come from love, but also from fear.
They come from fear because parents want safety for their children. They want you to follow a path that seems secure, respected, and socially accepted. And sometimes that path is right for you, but sometimes it simply isn't.
The challenge is that when expectations come from love, they are much harder to challenge. You feel guilty even questioning them, because the last thing you want is to hurt someone who loves you deeply.
Exactly. And then beyond family, there is culture. Depending on where you grew up, your culture might have very strong ideas about duty, honor, success, or what it means to be a good son, daughter, or member of the community.
In many cultures, the individual's wishes come second to the family or community's expectations. And while community is genuinely important, the problem comes when the individual is completely erased in service of that community.
Then there is social media, which is honestly a whole new level of expectation pressure. You scroll through carefully curated images of people's lives, and without even realizing it, you start measuring yourself against them.
And those images aren't even real, not fully. People share their highlights, not their struggles. But the comparison still happens automatically in your brain, and suddenly you feel like you're not doing enough, not being enough.
So between family, culture, and social media, there is just this constant stream of you should be this, you should do that, why haven't you done this yet? It is exhausting just describing it.
It really is. And when you are surrounded by all of that, it takes real awareness to pause and ask, wait, which of these voices is actually mine?
That question is really the turning point, isn't it? Recognizing that not all of the voices in your head belong to you. Some of them are borrowed from parents, teachers, society, and you have just been carrying them for so long they started to feel like your own.
And one of the most freeing realizations a person can have is, I do not have to keep every voice I was given. I get to choose which ones stay and which ones I respectfully let go.
So let us move now into the solutions, because we want this episode to be genuinely useful. We want you to walk away with something real, something you can actually use in your own life.
The first step is becoming aware. This might sound simple, but it is genuinely the foundation of everything else. You cannot change something you have not clearly seen yet.
What does this awareness look like in practice? It means starting to notice in your daily life when you are making choices out of genuine desire versus when you are making choices out of fear of what others will think.
A great way to do this is to start asking yourself a simple question whenever you are about to make a decision. Ask, am I doing this because I truly want to, or because I'm afraid of disappointing someone?
That one question, asked honestly, can be incredibly revealing, because often the answer is not what we expect. We realize that so many of our daily choices are driven by the second reason, fear of disappointment.
And the goal here is not to judge yourself for that. The goal is simply to see it clearly. Awareness without judgment is the first and most important gift you can give yourself.
The second step involves understanding the difference between love and control. This is a sensitive area, but it is really important to talk about it.
Yes. Sometimes people place expectations on us because they genuinely love us and want the best for us. But sometimes expectations are also about control, about keeping you close, keeping you predictable, keeping you in a role that works for them.
And the difficult truth is that love and control can come from the same person at the same time. Someone can deeply love you and also unconsciously use expectations to keep you in a certain place.
When you start to untangle those two things, love and control, you can respond differently. You can love someone back without accepting every expectation they place on you. Love does not require total surrender of yourself.
That is a really important distinction. You can say, I love you, I respect you, and I am still going to choose my own path. Those two things can exist at the same time.
And it is okay if that feels uncomfortable at first. Most things worth doing feel uncomfortable in the beginning. The discomfort is not a sign that you are doing something wrong. It is often a sign that you are finally doing something right.
The third step is learning to sit with disapproval. And this one, I think, is where most people struggle the most.
Absolutely. Because for many of us, disapproval feels like danger. Our nervous systems are actually wired to interpret social rejection as a threat. It goes back to our early human history. Being excluded from the group meant real danger.
So, when someone is disappointed in you, or when you sense someone's disapproval, your body might respond with anxiety, guilt, or a strong urge to fix things immediately. That response is very human and very normal.
But here is what you need to practice: sitting with that feeling without immediately reacting to it. When you feel the discomfort of someone's disapproval, try to pause, breathe. Let the feeling be there without letting it control your next action.
Over time, as you practice this, something important happens. You start to realize that disapproval does not actually destroy you. It is uncomfortable, yes, but it is survivable. And that realization changes everything.
Because once you know you can survive someone's disappointment, their expectations lose their power over you. You are no longer running away from a threat. You are simply making a choice. And that is a very different and much more empowered place to be.
The fourth step is reconnecting with your own values. And this ties directly back to what Priya said earlier, writing your own script.
When you have been living for others for a long time, your own values can become blurry. You might not be sure what you actually believe, what actually matters to you, what kind of life you genuinely want to live.
One really helpful exercise is to sit quietly and ask yourself, if no one was watching, if no one was judging, if there were no consequences socially, what would I do? What would I choose?
That question removes all the noise of other people's opinions and leaves you alone with yourself. And the answers that come up in that quiet space, those are much closer to your true values than anything you might say when you are performing for an audience.
You can also think about what consistently brings you genuine satisfaction. Not excitement or approval from others, but that quiet, deep feeling of, this is right for me. That feeling is a compass.
Once you reconnect with your values, you have a foundation. Decisions become clearer. You know what you are living for. And living from that place gives you a kind of steadiness that no amount of external approval can provide.
The fifth step is about communication, and specifically learning to set limits with people in a kind, clear, and calm way.
This is where things often feel scary for people, because they think, if I set limits, people will be hurt, or people will think I am selfish, or I will damage my relationships.
And yes, there may be some short-term discomfort when you start doing this. Some people will be surprised. Some may even push back. But the alternative, never setting limits, has a much bigger long-term cost.
The key to setting limits well is to do it from a place of calm and clarity, not frustration or anger. When you communicate your needs calmly and respectfully, most reasonable people will hear you, even if they need some time to adjust.
A simple formula that works well is, I care about you, and I need to be honest with you about something. That opening immediately signals respect and love, while also signaling that something important is coming.
And you do not need to over-explain or justify every limit you set. A simple, clear statement is usually enough. You are not asking for permission to have your own needs. You are simply communicating them.
Let's also talk about the role of guilt, because guilt is something almost everyone feels when they start to step away from other people's expectations.
Guilt is fascinating because it can be a genuine signal, telling you that you have acted against your own values. But guilt can also be a manipulative tool, either used by others consciously or unconsciously to pull you back into compliance.
So, how do you tell the difference? Ask yourself, have I actually done something harmful here? Have I hurt someone in a real serious way? Or am I feeling guilty simply because someone is unhappy with my choice?
If the guilt is coming from real harm, that is worth paying attention to and addressing. But if the guilt is simply coming from the fact that you made a choice for yourself, that is not guilt you need to carry. That is pressure in disguise.
And one thing worth saying here is, you are not responsible for managing other people's emotions for them. You can be kind, you can be compassionate, but you cannot live your entire life trying to prevent anyone from ever feeling disappointed.
That is a really important truth. Everyone is responsible for managing their own emotional world. You can be caring and supportive, but you are not the guardian of everyone else's feelings at the expense of your own well-being.
I want to bring up something that I think gets overlooked in this conversation, the idea of permission. So many people are waiting for permission to live life on their own terms.
That is so true. They're waiting for their parents to say, "Go ahead, live differently." Or for their partner to say, "Yes, it is okay to want something different." Or for society to finally approve of their choices.
But that permission is very rarely going to come from the outside, because the people whose expectations you are carrying are often deeply invested in you staying exactly where you are. They are comfortable with the version of you that meets their needs.
So the permission has to come from inside. You have to decide, I am allowed to want what I want. I am allowed to make choices that feel right for me, even if they surprise people, even if they disappoint people.
And that is not arrogance. That is not selfishness. That is the basic dignity of being a human being with your own inner life. You are not just a role in someone else's story. You are the main character of your own.
I love that. You are the main character of your own story, and you get to decide how that story goes. Not by ignoring everyone else, but by making sure your own voice is the loudest one in the room when you are making decisions about your own life.
Let us talk about what this process actually looks like over time, because I don't want anyone to think this is a quick fix. This is genuinely a process, and it takes time.
In the beginning, it can feel very clumsy. You start to make choices for yourself, and then the guilt hits, or someone reacts badly, and you second-guess everything. You wonder if you're being selfish or unkind.
That early phase is completely normal. You are essentially retraining your brain, shifting from a pattern of external validation to a pattern of internal guidance. And that kind of deep rewiring does not happen overnight.
But gradually, something shifts. You start to notice that the choices you made for yourself, even the ones that caused some discomfort, were actually okay. The relationships that are healthy and genuine survived. And the ones that could not survive you having your own voice, that tells you something important too.
And as time goes on, the internal voice gets stronger. You trust it more. You need less reassurance from the outside. And there's a calm that comes with that, a groundedness that is really hard to describe but impossible to miss once you feel it.
It is the feeling of coming home to yourself. After years of being partly somewhere else, inside other people's heads, inside their opinions and expectations, you are finally fully here, in your own life. And that feels extraordinary.
I also want to address something that sometimes comes up, the idea that letting go of expectations means letting go of people, because some people are afraid that if they stop meeting everyone's expectations, they will end up alone.
And this fear is understandable, because in some cases, relationships do change when you start to live more authentically. Some people in your life may be used to a version of you that was always available, always agreeable, always putting them first.
When you change, they may feel confused or even hurt. That is real. But here is the other side of that. The relationships that grow through this process are so much deeper and more genuine than the ones that were based on performance.
When people love you for who you actually are, not for the role you are playing, that love is real. It is sustainable. It does not require you to exhaust yourself maintaining it.
And you also tend to attract different people into your life as you become more yourself. People who share your actual values, who see you clearly, who appreciate the real you, not the version of you that was trying to please everyone.
So while there may be some grief in the transition, and it is okay to grieve when relationships change, what often grows in its place is something far more nourishing, real connection, genuine belonging, and that is worth the temporary discomfort.
Let us also take a moment to talk about one of the most powerful tools in this entire process, self-compassion. Because this journey is not easy, and you will stumble.
You will have days where you slip back into old patterns, where you say yes when you wanted to say no, where you shrink yourself to make someone comfortable. And when that happens, the worst thing you can do is punish yourself for it.
Self-compassion means treating yourself with the same understanding you would offer a good friend. If a friend told you, "I struggled today, I gave in to pressure again," you would not say, "You are weak, you will never change." You would say, "That is hard, it takes time, you are learning."
Give yourself that same voice, because the road out of other people's expectations is long, and it is not perfectly straight. You will zigzag, you will go back sometimes, And that is part of the process, not a failure.
The people who eventually get there are not the ones who never struggled. They are the ones who kept going anyway, who kept choosing themselves imperfectly and repeatedly until it became natural.
And that is something to genuinely feel hopeful about. Every single time you choose yourself, even just a little, even imperfectly, you are building something. A stronger relationship with yourself, a clearer sense of who you are, a quieter inner world.
Before we start wrapping up, I want to quickly touch on something practical. Daily habits that can support this whole process, because mindset shifts need to be supported by real, consistent actions.
One of the simplest and most powerful habits is journaling. Not long, elaborate entries, just a few honest sentences each day. What did I choose today? Why did I choose it? How did it feel? Did it align with who I actually want to be?
That kind of regular reflection builds enormous self-awareness over time. You start to see patterns, where you consistently give in, what triggers your need for approval, what situations bring you back to your own truth most naturally.
Another helpful habit is spending regular time in quiet. Not scrolling, not consuming, just being still. Because in that stillness, your own voice has space to surface. And in a world full of noise, quiet is genuinely radical.
Meditation, a short walk alone, sitting with a cup of tea without your phone. These simple moments of quiet are not luxuries. For someone working on this, they are almost necessities. They are how you stay in touch with yourself.
And finally, being intentional about the people and content you surround yourself with. If you are constantly around people who reinforce old expectations, it becomes much harder to change. Seek out people and voices that support the person you are becoming.
That does not mean cutting everyone off. It means being thoughtful. Being aware of which environments nourish your growth and which ones pull you back into patterns you are trying to move beyond.
Small, consistent habits compound. You might not see a dramatic change in a week or even a month, but 6 months from now, a year from now, the difference will be remarkable. And it starts with one honest decision at a time.
All right, I think we have covered this topic in a really meaningful and complete way today. Priya, before we close, I would love to hear your final thought. The one thing you most want our listeners to take with them.
If I could leave everyone with one thought, it would be this. Other people's expectations of you are their business, not your responsibility. You can love people, you can care for them, and you can still choose your own life. Those two things are not in conflict.
That is beautifully said. And my final thought is, the world actually benefits from you being fully yourself. When you stop shrinking, when you stop performing, when you show up as who you actually are, that is when you make your real contribution to your relationships, to your work, to everything.
We often think we are being selfish by choosing ourselves, but the truth is, a person who knows who they are and lives accordingly is far more present, more generous, and more genuinely helpful to others than someone who is exhausted from constant performance.
Exactly. You give better when you are not depleted. You love better when you are not resentful. You show up better when you are actually there, not a version of yourself built for someone else's approval.
So take what felt true for you today and carry it gently. You do not have to fix everything at once. One honest moment, one brave choice, one small step toward yourself. That is enough for today.
To everyone who stayed with us until the end, thank you so much. Genuinely, you took time out of your day to think about your life, your growth, and your well-being. That is not a small thing.
And if you are listening to this on Easy English Talk podcast, whether through YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, we hope this episode gave you something real, something that stays with you long after the episode ends.
Keep practicing your English, keep growing as a person, and keep being curious about your own life. Those 3 things together are incredibly powerful.
And we will be here every episode, walking that journey with you. Thank you for being part of this community. It truly means the world to both of us.
Oh, and before we go, if today's topic connected with you, you are going to love some of the other episodes we have on the Easy English Talk podcast. We cover topics like confidence, emotional intelligence, communication, relationships, and so much more.
Every episode is designed to help you grow, both in your English fluency and in your understanding of yourself and the world around you. So explore the channel, find a topic that speaks to you, and keep the conversation going.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourselves. And remember, your voice matters. Use it.
Bye for now, everyone. Until next time.